Today we are updating all things zombie block damage. Now we've got a lot of info to cover and no time to waste, so let's get to it. I recently released a video covering how much damage the zombie jerks do to the various blocks in 7 Days to Die. In this video, I claimed that zombie jerks get a 6 times damage boost against certain blocks, like the pole. But I received feedback and several suggestions claiming this just might not be the case. Now here in Saven's world, I always try to bring you folks the most accurate information I possibly can. And if I happen to bring you some information that isn't completely accurate, I feel it my responsibility to try to correct the record. So I tested this out extensively just to figure out exactly what was going on. And today I'm going to bring you the results of those tests and my many experiments. Now before we move on, I did want to take this opportunity to say, if you're finding this video helpful and or enjoyable, join the Sav Nation by clicking that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you do not miss a single one of our tutorial videos. I release videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. But now, let's get back to it. Now a few of the comments that I received pointed me to a video by a fellow YouTuber, Vetui42. His video was very interesting. I watched it over and over and over again. However, I wasn't quite convinced that he had got it 100% right. It felt like there were still some unanswered questions, and I wanted to test this for myself. But he did show this. This is a post on the 7 Days to Die forums regarding the extra damage to certain blocks. The poster says, Fatal said a day ago, zombies do 6 times damage when stuck, and they decide to attack what is blocking them. Those are generally block colliders that only collide on the edges, which are not seen by pathing. I found this post very interesting. What exactly constitutes being stuck? Because if we take a look here, and we have our poles blocking this section here, there is nothing for them to get stuck on, so what does that mean? Well, folks, I decided to figure it out, and let me tell you, it was a lot of testing, but I think I finally figured out exactly what stuck means and why the zombie jerks get the extra damage. So let me take you through a few things that will give us the pieces we need to put this puzzle together. First, we need to determine where the zombie jerks actually hit. So what I've got here is like a little hallway, little open space here, just a 1 block area blocked off by some regular steel blocks. We're gonna bring in a zombie Arlene, and we're gonna turn on her AI and see where she actually hits. Okay, so she hit right here. She hit block number 2. Now you'll notice, if we come back here, the zombie entity takes up 2 blocks. They've got 1 block here and then 1 block here. So when they swing, typically speaking, they will hit block number 2 right here. The next thing we need to determine is how much space does a zombie need in order to pass through 1 block. So in order to determine that, what I'm gonna do is throw down these half blocks here, and let's see if zombie Arlene can fit through a half block gap. And no, she cannot pass through a half block gap. Well, what about a 5/8 gap? So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna use these chests. These chests take up 3/8 of the block. There's 5/8 of a gap right here, and we're gonna see if zombie Arlene can pass through this. Come on, Arlene. And there you go. So she can pass through 5/8. So that tells us that the zombie can actually pass through 5/8. Anything bigger than that, and their pathing tells them, nope, you can't pass through that. You gotta bash, you gotta break down the block. Now at this point, there is a couple more pieces of information that we need to discuss. First, in Alpha 19, the developers changed the zombie pathing. In previous alphas, the zombies would see this as a solid block. So they'd come up to the pole here and they would think it was solid. They would attempt to walk like this and they would fall down. And this was a great way to keep the zombies going in a loop and never be able to reach you. Many players use this type of design in order to make horde bases that were pretty much unstoppable. But in Alpha 19, the developers changed the pathing so the zombie jerks would recognize this as open space. space, and they would path along here. So they would still be able to get across this block and come and punch you in the face. So changing the pathing to recognize this open space is an extremely important piece to this puzzle. Okay, so now we know the size of the gap the zombie jerk needs to come through, and we also know the developer changed the pathing for horizontal block placement. So the next thing we need to do is test out the blocks in various different circumstances. So what we're going to do is test the poles when there is nothing on the bottom. We're going to test the poles when there's plates. We're going to test the poles when there are other poles down. We're going to test the poles with chests on the ground here. And then we're going to test the poles when there is a half block down here. First up, pole with nothing blocking it. And there we go. So in this circumstance, she did 48 damage to this pole right here. Next up is the plate. Let's see what she does when there's a plate underneath. Okay, again, she did 48 points of damage. And now let's test the pole. And once again, she hit this block here for 48 points of damage. Next up, we're going to test the chest. This time, she only does 8 points of damage. And the last test we need to do is with the half block. And once again, she hits this block for 8 points of damage. So, for the first 3 tests, when there's nothing on the bottom, the plate on the bottom, and the pole on the bottom, she gets quote-unquote stuck and does 6 times damage. For the chest and the half block, she is not stuck and only does 8 damage. So why exactly is this happening? Well, folks, it all has to do with elevation. As you'll notice, in this scenario here, Zombie Arlene was standing on the ground. There was no elevation change whatsoever. And then as we continued, every elevation change here goes up by 1/8 of a block. So this is 1/8, this is 2/8, this is 3/8, this is 4/8. So she's getting raised off the ground ever so slightly, and that is somehow changing the results of how much damage she does. So why exactly is that happening? Now, there is one more thing that I need to cover that I didn't touch on quite yet, but it's very, very important to figuring this out. Blocks are basically broken up into 1/8 sections. So I've got a great representation here. This is the wood fencing paint. And as you can see, this block is separated basically into 8 different sections. This is just a visual representation of the block and is very important in order to explain what is going on. So I did want to touch base on that real quick, just so you can keep that in mind as we're going through all of this. Well, in order to explain it, folks, I'm going to pull out one of the most powerful weapons in the nerd's arsenal, the all-powerful spreadsheet. So if we take a look at this first spreadsheet, this one is titled Pole Rotations with Solid Area / Space. You'll see the sections in yellow are the solid area parts, and the sections in white are the space parts. So let me demonstrate exactly what this would look like if you actually had the blocks down. So vertical front facing would be like that. Vertical side facing would be like that. So pretty much the vertical space, it would be in the same basic section. This section of the block here. Horizontal top would look like this, and horizontal bottom would look like this. Now we use the horizontal bottom rotation here for our tests, and I will demonstrate why exactly in 1 second here. So that just gives you kind of an idea of how the zombies are looking at these particular blocks. Now this next spreadsheet shows the zombie hit areas. So when the zombies swing, where are they expecting to hit? As you can see, as you place blocks on the bottom and raise them up, their expected hit area increases as well. But they always aim for the middle block, the middle of the block. So basically, for a 0 elevation, they would be hitting for sections 4 and 5. So now we've explained zombie pathing with regards to these poles here. They see this as a viable path, and they should be able to walk right through it. There's plenty of space for them to get through. However, when you turn them on their sides, they're no longer able to walk straight through. They boom, they get stuck on the block, and oh no, I can't go through. Something's wrong. Now, you would think that when they attack, they would actually just hit the block, no problem, no extra damage. But therein lies the bug. Let's take a look at this from the zombies' point of view. So they are walking up here. The players out there player, they need to go get to the player, they need to kill the player, eat the brains, all that fun stuff, all the stuff that zombies do. So their pathing tells them I need to go through here in order to get to the player, but they reach a barrier. They reach these blocks here. Now, according to the change that the developers made to these blocks, there is plenty of space for them to get through. So they should be able just to walk through, but they can't because they're blocked. Uh-oh, I'm blocked, I need to attack. So they swing and they do extra damage here. But why are they doing extra damage? In order to answer that question, we need to go to the next spreadsheet. This is what I call the pole rotation with zombie hit intersections. This is how we're going to put all of the pieces together. So zombie pathing, they're walking here and they're saying, okay, my pathing tells me that when I come across this block here, I should be able to get through that gap. So they come up, but they can't get through the gap because this is turned horizontally, thus blocking their path. However, the zombies, when they attack, still see this as a vertical rotation. They don't see it as a horizontal rotation. They see it as a vertical rotation. So the initial pathing looks at the poles like this. So the vertical, I should be able to walk right through, no problem. Even when they are in this orientation, they still look at it as a vertical orientation. So they come up with a setup like this, and their pathing tells them, oh, there should be enough space for me to get through, but no, there's not. So because of that conflict, they're expecting to walk into empty space, but there is a solid section blocking them. Once that happens, they decide, oh, something's going wrong here. I need to attack in front of me in order to clear the path. So they swing. And when they swing, they're expecting to hit the vertical space, not the horizontal space. They're looking at it vertically, not horizontally. So if we take a look at the next spreadsheet, the pole rotation with zombie hit intersections, you will see why they deal extra damage. In this scenario, their pathing tells them they should be able to get through this block, but they can't. They walk up, they attack, and they deal 6 times damage. That's because they swing expecting to hit somewhere in here and hit a solid area, but they don't. They hit space. There's nothing here, nothing here, nothing here, nothing here. So they damage this block for 6 times the amount because they are stuck. Again, if we take a look at our spreadsheet, they're looking to hit spaces 4 and 5, but there is nothing but null space there. So the zombie says, oh darn, I'm stuck. I need to deal extra damage. They get the 6 times damage boost because they're stuck. Now, if we take a look at where they're standing in this scenario, they are actually raised up 1/8 of a block. So if we go back to our rotation hit intersection spreadsheet, you'll see now they are looking to hit space numbers 5 and 6. They swing, oh no, I hit space, 6 times damage. And the same holds true when there's poles down on the ground. They swing, oh no, I hit empty space, 6 times damage. But if we move over here to the chests and take a look again at our spreadsheet, you'll notice now they are attacking and expecting to hit sections 7 and 8. So when they swing, expecting to hit section 7 and 8, since section 8 collides with section 1 here, they are actually hitting solid space and dealing the damage. And the same holds true for the half block. So they walk up and swing, expecting to hit solid space, and because of the orientation and the elevation, they actually do hit solid space, so they get what they expect and deal regular damage. So in the first 3 scenarios here, they deal the extra damage because they are actually swinging and hitting empty space. Thus they are stuck, and thus they do 6 times damage. And in the last 2 scenarios, they're raised up high enough that when they swing, they are expecting to hit solid space, and they actually do connect with solid space. Therefore, they only deal the regular 8 damage. Talk about a complicated problem, folks. Let me tell you, I spent hours upon hours upon hours testing this out. But all of the testing and experimentation worked out. We were able to answer the question as to why zombies get the 6 times damage boost. Now, the purpose of this video was just to answer that question. Zombie interactions with blocks are actually much more complicated, and there is much more to it. While I was able to answer the question of why the zombies get the 6 times damage boost, during all of this testing, a whole bunch of other questions were raised. And I'm not going to touch base on those in this video. I'm going to be saving that for a future video because there is a lot more testing that needs to be done in order to actually answer those questions. But hopefully this question has been answered adequately. But I will leave that up to you folks. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think my explanation fits? Does it actually answer the question of why they get the 6 times damage boost? Let me know in the comments below. Now, if you found this video helpful and or enjoyable and would like to see more videos related to game mechanics and that kind of thing, I have created a special playlist of game mechanic tutorials. You can access that playlist by clicking the box in the top right corner of the screen. But for now, this is Saven saying thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me in Saven's World. And remember, the average gamer is always king of the hill on the bell curve.